Let's talk about Peru, specifically their traditional lifestyle and their reliance on primitive water sources as they relate to agriculture and energy.
So Peru is this beautiful place full of culture and tradition, and you just can't help but notice the beauty of it the second you step into Peru. One thing in particular that I noticed was that their water source was very primitive, and their energy and the way that they're producing their food, it's all very primitive.
So, about producing food, can we touch on farming methods, specifically pre-colonization style?
So the indigenous people of Peru, or Incans, had a relatively sustainable way of providing for their families. They had these rather sophisticated canals for water that would provide for not only drinking water, but for the crops. And their crops were terraced in a way that would retain soils and retain water. And they also had a method of fallowing, which is where you leave the soils alone for anywhere from 3 to 5 years, and this just allows it to regenerate to a natural state. So when the Spanish invaded, they introduced different farming practices. They introduced livestock such as cows and mules, donkeys, pigs. All of these animals, they just moved right into what would naturally have been forest land. This forest land was a hot spot for biodiversity. It was basically clear cut so that these animals could live there.
So let's talk about your research, specifically water quality or glaciation.
So we're here with the Mountain Environment Research Institute, and we've been here for about a month now living in Peru. We spent the first few days being introduced to the history and the culture of this area. And then we basically moved right into the Cordillera Blanca. We've spent several weeks now in different valleys doing research. Our research has been focused on water quality, vegetation changes, geology changes, and we've been looking at changes in glaciers. And all of this has a direct link to the Peruvian people. As stated before, their sources of energy, food, and water come directly from these locations.
So with climate change happening all around the world, what would you say that the future is for the Peruvian people?
So we see already changes in this area, such as farming practices are no longer as sustainable as they used to be. They're losing their soils. They are losing their water sources. Their water sources are becoming more and more contaminated. And if this continues, I mean, we can just only expect to see less food for the Peruvian people, possibly less tourism, loss of economic gain, and this might cause a mass immigration to a new area. So one thing that we propose to the audience is, what is it gonna take for people to start making changes here? The changes that are happening here are happening worldwide. We can expect to see the same impacts to the Peruvian people happen to first world countries. It may take a little bit longer for us to get there, but this is definitely our future. I believe that's why the research we're doing here is important to everyone worldwide.